and I am running to be your next mayor to make this city affordable. I will do so by freezing the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants, by making the slowest buses in the country fast and free, and by delivering universal childcare. And I will pay for this by taxing the 1%, the billionaires and the profitable corporations that Mr. Cuomo cares more about than working-class New Yorkers. I will ask them to pay their fair share.
How can you guarantee that will happen?
So I have experience in this, actually, because in my first year in the state legislature, I came to Albany, where we had a governor then who didn't want to raise taxes on billionaires and corporations. That was then Governor Cuomo. And we actually overcame his objections, raised $4 billion in new annual revenue, and finally funded the very public schools that he had starved for so many years.
Thank you very much.
We need to use city-owned vacant land, 1,000 properties, and transform that land into affordable housing. That property should go to not-for-profits, to limited profit developers, not the luxury developers that fund Andrew Cuomo's campaign. But
I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in. And the difference between myself and Andrew Cuomo is that my campaign is not funded by the very billionaires who put Donald Trump in D.C. I don't have to pick up the phone from Bill Ackman or Ken Langone.
Mr. Mondami is very good on Twitter and with videos, but he actually produces nothing for him to accuse me of lying. He also called President Obama a liar and said President Obama was evil. So take everything with a grain of salt. Donald Trump would go through Mr. Mondami like a hot knife through butter. He's been in government 27 minutes. He passed 3 bills. That's all he's done.
Look, it's true that I don't have experience with corrupt Trump billionaires who are funding my campaign. I don't have experience with party politics and insider consultants. I do have experience, however, with winning $450 million in debt relief for thousands of working-class taxi drivers and actually delivering to the working-class people.
Thank you, Mr.
We can't have corruption here in New York City as well. It's not only that Andrew Cuomo lied to Congress, which is perjury. He also lied to the grieving families whose loved ones he sent into those nursing homes to protect his $5 million book deal. That's corruption.
The people who don't feel safe are young women, mothers, and grandmothers around Andrew Cuomo. That's the greatest threat to public safety.
I find it ridiculous to hear Andrew Cuomo talk about how we need to regulate the apps when this is the very mayoral candidate who has a super PAC that received $1 million from DoorDash. How are you going to regulate DoorDash when they are giving you $1 million to influence your street safety regulations and your labor regulations?
I work for the people of the state of New York, the people of the city of New York. I don't care who gave me what. I do what is right. And that's how I.
But you don't feel compromised?
That's how I've always run my.
But don't you feel
career.
compromised?
I just said the apps should be held responsible.
I just want to make sure we internalize that Andrew Cuomo just said, I don't care who gave me what. That's not a man who's actually going to break the corruption in City Hall. You need a new vision right here.
And let's remember who represents who here. I am the person on this stage who represents the working men and women of New York City. The labor unions have endorsed me, over 650,000 strong.
You were fined by the campaign finance board. I got this.
You're being challenged by the campaign finance board as we speak.
We have to move on.
As a Democrat, one of my regrets is having trusted the leaders within our own party, leaders like Andrew Cuomo, because what we've seen is that kind of leadership has delivered us to this point where we are under attack by an affordability crisis on the inside and a Trump administration on the outside.
I said I regret the state of the Democratic Party is
no
in that we
regrets.
elected Trump.
Not the 15th.
No regrets when it comes to cutting Medicaid or health care. No regrets when it comes to cutting child care. No regrets when it comes to slow walking PPE and vaccinations in the season of COVID to black and brown communities. Really, no regrets. No regrets.
I regret not having secured more funding for after school earlier in my career, but I want to turn to Andrew because during...
These are short answers, Mr. Barr, on your regrets.
I have 30 seconds, correct?
Yes.
When I was in the ICU during COVID, writing legislation to protect my community, you were the most powerful person in this state, and you were in the governor's mansion taking a $5 million deal. Do you regret taking the $5 million, and will you give it back?
Yeah. First of all, that's not true.
What part?
I stood up every day and fought for this state, for COVID, against President Trump. for PPE, for masks. I was in emergency
I was
rooms.
in a hospital.
All right, gentlemen,
Gentlemen,
I need
May I
to
finish?
We're wearing,
Slow walk them.
Gentlemen, I
wearing garbage
understand.
bags for PPE.
Yes.
Do you regret taking
We're going
$5
to,
million?
we're going to
I
pick up.
did.
It's
We
the
were
way,
doing everything
Mr. Cuomo,
we could every day to get
Mr.
as
Cuomo,
much
people
as
aren't going to
we
hear you
could.
if you.
I was the champion for the Gowanus rezoning, which is producing 8,000 homes in my district. But I'll be honest, I wish I had pushed for even more housing in my district when I was a city council member, because we need it. But let's be clear, sexually harassed 13 women, marked up that state health department report to undercount nursing home deaths, has now forced taxpayers to spend $60 million on his
Lander,
legal bills, has
your
learned
biggest regret-
absolutely nothing, taken no
Mr. Lander, your biggest.
responsibility.
Okay, Mr. Lander, thank you.
David,
He does not deserve your
May I-
trust.
Means that we have to be clear to be against any anti-blackness that is happening in our schools. And something that many people may not realize. In 2008, Andrew Cuomo said that no candidate should shuck or jive in an election. Clearly, Barack Obama was there. So when we talk about education, it's not just about making sure that we're understanding how more kids can read,
we're at time,
but making
Mr.
sure we
Blake.
address the anti-blackness happening in schools.
We're at time, Mr. Blake, and before we move to Mr. Mamdani, Mr. Cuomo, would you like to respond to that?
It's ridiculous. So no.
What about it is ridiculous?
Is it inaccurate that you said in 2008?
I never
about-
insulted President Obama.
Is this
Is it-
Mr.
is the quote
Mondami, who
incorrect?
said he is a liar.
Is the quote incorrect?
and evil.
This is very-
I never insulted.
Okay, not hearing an answer to
This is
whether
very
the quote
clear.
is
In
incorrect.
2008,
I never.
in 2008,
I don't know what
We
you're
do have to
referring
move
but I
on because
never
many people
insulted
do want
But
to
I was-
hear about
I
public
was- I was
education, so we're
invoked-
going to move on to
I was
Mr.
invoked by
Mamdani.
more of an ABC guy, anybody but Cuomo. We're going to build 200,000 truly affordable homes. Homes that are for the New Yorker who has a median household income of $70,000 for a family of four. We'll do this while taking on the very bad landlords and the real estate developers who are funding Andrew Cuomo's campaign. $2.5 million last time I checked.
Is there an area where you would consider replacing city workers with AI if it saves tax dollars? And would you also offer any protections to city workers?
I think Andrew Cuomo would tell you that he's already replaced a campaign worker who would have written his housing policy with AI because he had it written by ChatGPT.